Hi guys, and I'm Retro Critic here, and today I'll be reviewing and talking about Tugs. And that's right, I'm going to be talking about Tugs today. Yeah, Tugs, the TV series. Yeah, so I'm talking about the original TV series of Tugs that came out in like the 1980s. So Tugs is basically a spin-off of Tom's Tank Engine, made by the same people that made Tom's Tank Engine. The series was directed by David Min and Robert Cardona. So Tugs was created by David Min and Robert Cardona, who are also the creators of Tom's Tank Engine, the same people that like made Tom's Tank Engine. They want to split their own ways, and this was the first Knock spin-off. So Tugs is actually, well, the better version, is the better TV series that I talked about before than, better TV series than Theater Tugboat, but I digress. Yeah, and it's the better version, better TV series of Theater Tugboat, but I dig. But in Tugs was this TV series. And Tugs was a TV series that was created by Dave Min and Robert Cardona, the same people that worked on Tom's Tank Engine. And Dave Min and Robert Cardona also worked on Tom's Tank Engine. Dave Min, directed some episodes, written some episodes of Tom's Tank Engine. He applied them here. Robert Cardona written some episodes. He did some of the. He was a producer of Tom's Tank Engine. He did some of the effects on Tom's Tank Engine. He worked on that show, and then he worked on this show, Tugs. So it's kind of cool that they kind of worked together and they want to create their own spin-off series. And this was the first spin-off of Tom's Tank Engine, and it was kind of cool that they wanted to both make a spin-off series of Tom's Tank Engine, and they called it Tugs, which is about talking tugboats. But in this series, so Midden and Cardona, this was basically, they created the first Tom's Tank Engine spin-off, and this series is called Tugs. So, and what was interesting was, now, later on, David Min, of course, went back to work with Britt Allcroft in season 3. Because, I don't think, Britt Allcroft was not involved in this series. Midden and Cardona wanted to do their own thing. So it was kind of cool seeing, so Britt Allcroft was not involved in this series, but it was kind of cool seeing that Midden and Cardona wanted to create their own series at the time, and basically Cardona wanted to create his own series. And what was interesting is that, and then later on, David Min went back to work with Britt Allcroft around season 3 of Tom's Tank Engine. During season 3 of Tom's Tank Engine. So David Min went back to work with Britt Allcroft during season 3 of Tom's Tank Engine. But basically, in this series, in Tugs, they wanted to and it was cool because in this series, they want to make a TV series that was targeted for American audiences. So this series came out in 1988 throughout 1991. Well, let me explain. So Tugs came out. Tugs was released in 1988 in Britain, in the UK, and then in 1980 through 1980, through 1989, and then I think through 1989 in the US. That's where Tugs came in, or that's where Tugs came in and was released through there. And then in 1990 there was reruns and there was VHS tapes releases up until 1991. So 1990 they released some VHS tapes, and through 1991 they released some more VHS tapes. They released some more home video VHS tapes of Tugs, and they had some airings, and they released that in the States. Reruns had some States, and they had reruns in the States, and that's where they had reruns in the States. And that's when Tugs came out. And what's interesting is that Robert Cardona and Dave Min, they wanted to create a TV. I mean, this show was made in Britain, but this show was from a British production. But they wanted to aim the series for Americans, so they targeted the series for. They want to make a series for Americans, which I find that adorable, which I find that kind of cool. And they did a good job. They get the culture right, the style right. I like that. But so they kind of get the right, and it takes. But this is a British production, but this is basically a British production that wanted to aim towards Americans. So they basically want to make an American TV series aimed for Americans, which I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of adorable. Which I'm not gonna lie, which to be honest, that's actually kind of sweet. Which to be honest, that's actually kind of sweet. And honestly, but watching this series, they did a good job with the culture of America. They did a good job with the style of Americans, at least. About how we talk, how they talk, the slang terms, how they talked, at least. So they did a good job with that and all that stuff. And what was really interesting is in Tugs, they just really did a good job with that. And David Min and Robert Cardona, they actually, and this series was kind of a big success. Had pretty good ratings and all that stuff. They did a good job what they did. And they did a good job what they did. I really like what they did here. The series was kind of a big hit, but was canceled later on. We'll explain that later. But the series actually was released, but the series did have a good cult following. But years later, the series did have a cult following, and we'll get to that later. But but they did a good job here. So they did the best they could. They did a good job here, and they did the best they could. That's kind of all I gotta say. So in Tugs,
I mean, you get so many like cool scenes and a lot of dark moments. And for example, I want to just show you maybe just a couple scenes that are considered to be like really dark for a kid's show and just kind of like edgy and kind of dark. You know, I mean, there's like one scene where Big Mickey kind of dies or sacrifices his life. There's one scene. And then there's like the creepy, spooky scenes in Ghosts. In the episode Ghosts, there's some creepy, spooky scenes here and there I like. But the first one I'm going to show you is in the episode Munitions, where Big Mickey sacrifices himself. And in the episode Munitions, Big Mickey kind of just dies. And it's pretty messed up. I mean, I'm surprised this was in like a kid's show, but yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. And it's kind of... And I just like how really like serious the moment is. I really like how serious that scene is in that moment.
Oh no, Big Mickey's dock is going up.
Move out, everyone! It's going over!
Stay where you are! Hunt him clear!
Just hope Mickey gets it right, otherwise he'll sink us all.
Big Mickey!
Oh, he's done it. He's falling sideways.
That was too close for comfort.
It took real skill to make that move.
He saved us all for sure.
Tugs had no radio and no radar. Long periods of fog had a way of conjuring up old sea stories and superstitions among the boats of the harbour. I remember Big Mac returned quite late. He'd been working all day with Scuttlebutt Pete, who'd been telling him old sea stories of strange things that happened when fog was around.
Oh, Tugs, thank goodness for... Who's that? Who's out there doing anything? Can't hear their engines. It's funny. They're the ghost fleet that Scuttlebutt Pete talked about. Ghosts, no!
It was too much for Big Mac. Forgetting safety, he charged into the fog and made his way through the dark shapes of moored boats and trampers, trying to make sure the ghost tugs weren't following him. He was soon back at the Star Dock.
Yeah. So, see what I'm talking about? Where Big Mickey dies, and the creepy scenes and Ghosts. I mean, the scene where Big Mickey dies is one crazy scene in the episode Munitions. But just the idea of a crane dying is insane in a kid's show. I mean, and this is in the episode Munitions. I mean, the idea of a talking crane named Big Mickey dying is just a crazy thing to see in a kid's show. And just the suspense and the eeriness of the ghost scenes in the episode Ghosts, in the episode Ghosts, you know what I'm talking about. It's just really creepy and eerie. So there's just so many cool stuff in this series, and I will go on how amazing this series is in the episode Go.
And basically, the series is about, in the story, it takes place in the 1920s in America. The series came out in the 80s, but the story takes place in the 20s. And it's about, two rival companies competing each other. And the series the story of the series comes out in the 1920s. Well, the series came out made in the 80s. Okay, but just to be clear, yeah, the series was made and came out in the 1980s. But the story of the series revolves around takes place in the 1920s, and in it, it's about two tugboat companies rivaling each other, competing each other, rivaling each other. And what's so hilarious, and basically one of his own, Thomas Tank Engine, better version of, this is Thomas Tank Engine but with tugboats, and basically you get one tugboat company called the Star Tugs, which are the good guys of the series, and the Star Tugs. Then the other company, you get the Z Tugs, who are the bad guys, and they have gangster mafia hat, and I like how they're black and brown skin. It's really, you have mafioso hats. They're trying to gangster tugboats. I like the design. I like the look. It's hilarious. It's funny. But the good guys, the Star Tugs. Now the Star Tugs are the good guys, and they have kind of yellow and blue kind of colors. They have kind of sea kind of shipping hat design. I like that. And because I like the look of the Star Tugs. They have yellow kind of bluish kind of clothing, kind of design. They sea cap. They're kind of sea shipping kind of designs. Kind of that's what they look like. It's kind of their color skin, and color and skin, and basically the Star Tugs are like the good guys, and the Star Tugs led by the Starfleet. They're led by Captain Star, who runs the company. They're led by Hercules and 10 Cents. And you get characters like Sunshine and Top Hat and Big Mac and Warrior and all that stuff. But yeah, the Starfleet, who's like the Star, who's like the Starfleet. And what's really interesting is, and they're led by like Captain Star, and Captain Star is just the guy that just runs the company. But the tugboats that lead, and the tugboats that he runs, that he leads, is Hercules. And Hercules is kind of like the leader. Is kind of like the tugboat leader. Star just runs company. And Star just runs company, runs like Hercules, and Hercules is like the tugboat leader. Hercules is like the tugboat leader. But we get introduced to our characters. We get like 10 Cents, and 10 Cents is like the Thomas of this series. He's like the Thomas Tank Engine of this series. You get introduced to like a new character called Sunshine in like the first episode. Sunshine is like the Percy of the series, and you get introduced to this. to this new character called Sunshine, named Sunshine, and he's introduced in like the first episode. But you get this character named Sunshine, who's like the Percy of the series. You get like Hercules, who's like the Edward kind of Gordon of the series, more like the persona of Edward, but like kind of big as Gordon. Like, he's big as Gordon, but he has more of the persona of Edward. But yeah, you get like Hercules, who's like kind of like the Gordon / kind of Edward of the series. You get like Top Hat, who's like kind of like James. Who's like the sassy James, who's kind of like the yes guy. He's like the kind of yes guy. He's kind of like the snooty tugboat. He's kind of like the snotty tugboat. And you get like Big Mac. You get like Warrior, and Warrior's like the Henry of the series. You get like Warrior, who's like a big tugboat, who's like the Henry of the series. You get like Big Mac, who's kind of more like the Gordon of the series, to be fair. And you get like Big Mac, another big tugboat, and these are all tugboats, by the way. You get Big Mac, who's like another big tugboat, and he's like kind of like the Gordon of the series. He's kind of like the Gordon of the series. And then you get like OJ, who's kind of a steamboat / tugboat. He's kind of like the, since we're old Jones, and he's like the Toby of the series. And your grandpa's like the submarine. And you get like OJ, who's kind of like a steamboat / tugboat. He's kind of like the old man of the series, and he's called OJ, and he stands for Old Jones. And he's kind of like the Toby of the series. And then you get like Grampus, who's like the 8th member. Grampus is like a submarine. Marine's cool, yeah. And yeah, he's like the 8th member of the Star Tugs, and he's like a cool, funny guy. Yeah, and he's a cool, funny guy. And that's kind of like, and those are the Star Tugs, and they're kind of like the main characters. And I would say like Grampus is like a Oliver, in my opinion. Yeah, and I would say like Grampus is like an Oliver of the series, in my opinion. But he's like the Star Tugs. And those are the Star Tugs. And those are the Star Tugs who are like kind of like our main heroes of the series. And then you get like the Z Stacks, the Zero Fleet. So then you get the Z Stacks, and they're led by like Captain Zero, who just runs the company. But the tugboat that runs it, that leads, is Zoran. And they're like it's like the steamers. They're like the evil tugboats, and it's like the steamy versus it's like the tugboats. It's like steamy versus diesels. So yeah, so you get the Z Stacks, and they're led by Captain Zero. And Captain Zero is just the guy that runs the company. He just runs and owns the company. He's just a guy that runs and owns the company. But the leader of the tugboats is Zoran. But the leader of the Z Stacks is Zoran. Well, I mean, the leader of the Z Stack tugboats is led by Zoran. So the leader is Zoran. And Zoran and his henchmen are like Zepedy, Zack, Zug, Zip, and they're like the evil, and they're like kind of, their plan is to scheme and do evil stuff. It's like steam versus diesels, and they're like the evil guys. And I like their design, and you get like Zoran, leader, and the henchmen are like Zebedee, Zack, Zug, Zip. And I like their design. They're like black, brown, mafioso hat. And I like their design. They have like black, brown color skin, and they have, that's kind of like their color skin. Black, brown color skin. That's black, brown color skin. And I like how they look like they're trying to have like mafia gangster hats. So they're trying to look like gangsters. So they're trying to look like mafioso hats. Like they give them like mafioso hats. They give them like mafia hats, and they're trying to look like gangsters. So that's really cool there, because I like how they're trying to make them look like gangsters, gangster tugboats. That's really cool. That's kind of funny. Gangster tugboats. That's kind of funny there. But they're kind of like the villain of the series, and what they do is like they want to scheme, break the rule. Again, it's a competition. Who will be the more successful company of the big port. And basically they break the rules of Star Tugs. What they do is they scheme, they do dirty tricks, they do all that evil stuff. and it's about kind of like action paced. So awards and what it is like basically the Star Tugs they follow the rules, but the Z Tugs break the rules, the illegal stuff, a lot of scheming. The Star Tugs they're just trying to do their job because it's about like they're just doing their job. They run the big city port, but the Z Stacks. I mean, basically, the Star Tugs, it's about running. It's about running a big city port. It's about running a successful company in the big city port. But the Z Stacks want to compete. They want to rival. They want to like have the upper gain. And they do like dirty tricks and illegal stuff, scheming to do that. And that's like really interesting. That's a really interesting and that's a really interesting premise where like, the Z Stacks they do like evil scheming. They do like dirty tricks, actually. And they do like a lot of like action, destruction, and that's like maniacal, they want to like bump. I mean, they don't care, and that's really maniacal. They want to like bump into other tugboats. They want to like break the rules and do illegal stuff, dirty tricks. That's fast. I mean, that's it. I mean, in the Z, and it's about the Star Trek stopping the Z, like doing evil stuff. Or or doing leap, or kind of cheating, and so the Star Tugs stopping the Z-Stacks cheating, or stopping the Z-Stacks from doing corrupt stuff. Star Tugs. And it's about the Star Tugs stopping the Z-Stacks. It's about the Star Tugs stopping the Z-Stacks from doing like corrupt stuff. And that's just a really interesting premise right there, of itself. Really, when you think about it. That's basically in a nutshell a summary of the story of the series. That's basically like kind of my general summary of like the story of the series.
In the series Tugs, there's like a lot of like action scenes and a lot of suspenseful dark scenes. I would go on. There's like a lot of dark scenes that are suspenseful and have a lot of good atmosphere. Like episodes like Pirate and Upriver, for example. And there's like a lot of good action scenes like the episode Upriver. And a lot of good suspense like the episode Pirate. And I would go on. But there's many other good episodes like Trapped, Quarantine, High Winds, High Tide. I will go on. Really good episodes of those series. So, yeah, I want to show you some examples of those episodes.
Anybody left out there?
That was a big bang.
It was very controlled. I'm out, see?
Well, that's one thing to be thankful for.
And look, it's blown the fire out.
Oh, well done, Billy.
Aye, and look what else it's done. The whole jam's breaking up. Move back, fast!
Big Mac's earlier warning proved correct. The great pile of logs slowly fell apart and pushed others towards the barges used as a dam to hold them in the lake. The power of Billy Shoepack's explosion turned the logs into a huge battering ram.
But we figure you still owe us.
You're going back on your word. You said that was the last barge.
The thief.
Changed our mind, see? It's one more barge. Get it tonight or it's goodbye to him. Davy Jones's locker on the seabed.
Johnny Cuba had dropped anchor, waiting till he wasn't seen.
Nobody in sight. That's what I like. Time to slip in closer to port and meet my business pals.
Johnny Cuba's idea of a business pal was, like himself, a gangster.
Ahoy there! Have to! Customs inspection! You are within port limits. I'm coming aboard! Hey! Watch out what you're doing! Careful! Oh! Ah!
Sorry, mate. The wind must have blown me off course. G'day, nice to see you. Listen, do something for me. Slip me into the harbour so I'm not breaking the law, eh? I'll see you all right.
I'd love to, sir. Honest I would.
No ifs, no buts, Zebedee. I need a
OJ saw the motorboat speeding towards him, but didn't realise that it was out of control and going fast.
Lend your time, boy, or I'll be out of your way.
The motorboat suddenly veered towards them. OJ reversed his engines just in time to avoid it crashing into him.
You fool! You're exceeding the speed limit!
His engine didn't respond as he wanted it to, and he started to spin to starboard. His barge swung out and hit the ferry.
No!
The ferry boat started to list, water rushing into a gaping hole.
My engine's jammed. 10 cents. Thank heaven you're here.
What a ferry sinking, OJ.
Oh, you've got a problem there, Zoran.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, son, doesn't Zoran look funny, eh? Don't come on those rocks.
Oh, well, I suppose that...
Stop laughing. Stop laughing. It's not funny.
Hey, we think it is, eh? Don't we, son?
Yeah.
If this doesn't work, you'll be in danger yourself, Stinker!
I know, don't remind me. Just get me under the end of that rail.
It's worked, Stinker! You're a smelly old genius, nothing less!
Took some brain to save that train.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, well, that's been a hard day. But we're all cleared up now.
Yep. I bet everybody else had a really easy day waiting for the tide to go down.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet Top Hat delivered Lord Stinker, then moored up somewhere quiet.
Yeah. Somehow he always manages to take it nice and easy.
Okay, so I just kind of show you some good examples of just kind of really good scenes of those episodes. Just kind of my thoughts, just my thoughts on those scenes, because I just want to show you just some good scenes of moments of those episodes, just the summary of my thoughts of those episodes. But yeah, look, I mean, like I said, Upriver has a lot of good action scenes. Pyre has the good suspense scenes. I mean, Upriver is a good example of just an action-packed episode. And the episode Pyre is a good example of just like horror suspense, a good like atmosphere kind of thriller episode. I'll go on, but like episodes like High Tide, High Wind are like suspenseful. A lot of good, like the stakes are high in those episodes. Like Trapped and even Quarantine are like really good in terms of just like adventure, and the stakes are high. That's what I really like about this series. You know, it's ahead of its time. I like how serious the series can be. Like I like how like serious some scenes can in the TV series. It can be like just there can be just a lot of like good like direction in this series. This series was ahead of its time. It's really amazing. You know, this series was just such a it was a very mature series. I'll just say that it was a very the series is a very mature kind of TV series. Definitely unique, a great product. I mean, this series is clearly a product of its time, but it was also very ahead of its time, and it was a very adult series, and it was a almost adult kind of series, TV series, to be fair. Really good, really amazing show. I just think this series is an amazing gem of this series is an amazing gem of a series.
And here's the really cool part about this series. Now, David Manin worked on Thunderbirds. And the same way they made Thunderbirds made Tugs, which is cool. Because I'm not kidding, there's a lot of like explosions and actions and crashes, and a lot of explosions in Tugs in this series. There was a lot of explosions in this series, and that's because David Manin worked on Thunderbirds, which that series had like a lot of explosions and models, practical effects through here. So that makes sense. Because in Thunderbirds, in that, there was like a lot of explosions and practical effects. Because in that series, there was a lot of explosions and practical effects and models and action and shooting fight, with practical models, with lots of action and fighting. But it makes sense where I have David Manin worked on Thunderbirds, worked on Tugs. So the same, David Manin who worked on Thunderbirds worked in here in Tugs. That kind of makes sense. So that explains a lot. But what's funny is, what's really cool is you get like so many like action-packed explosions and crashes in this series, and a lot of just a lot of action in this series. So much fun. Oh my goodness. It's like dark and edgy too sometimes. Really fun series. There was one scene where you get this character called Big Mac, who's like a giant. You get this character called Big Mickey, who's like a giant crane. And in the episode Musicians, there's massive explosions. He sacrifices his life, and the munition explosions caught on with him, and he falls down and he explodes and falls down in the water. And it implies that he died. There's a TV cut. There's a shorter version. It was that kind of implied that that he survived. That's debatable too. But the canon version, which is the original VHS version, the 20-minute version, he kind of lives. Well, we'll get to that because we'll get to that. But there's like a lot of weird differences in that series. But and there's an episode where I'll explain that more. But in the episode High Tide, Top Hat almost died, a bridge full of a train almost dies, but then he survives, and then he helps it and all that stuff. Okay, we'll get to that. But this series is just so much fun. I do like the episode Ghosts. I like the episode Musicians, River Up, High Tide, Quarantine, High Winds, Trap, Pirate, Sunshine. I like all the episodes, most of the episodes. But overall, I really love this series. And this series is really fun. I mean, Tugs can be a really dark and edgy. I'm not kidding. This series can be really dark sometimes. This series can be really edgy sometimes. Tugs. It's a really fun series. Okay, and what's so crazy is, now what's really weird is there's most of the episodes are 15 minutes, but four episodes, first 5 episodes, 4 episodes are 20 minutes long, and that came out in the VHS version, in the home media, which is interesting. And it's interesting where, it was most of the episodes came out in 15 minutes in the TV version, but in the VHS version, in the home video media release of Tugs, the first 5 episodes of Tugs are 20 minutes. Yeah, they're 20 minutes long. And, something like that. And there's an episode in Munitions, which I thought this was a crazy... This was one dark moment in Tugs where, there was massive explosions in Munitions, and there's, this talking crane called Big Mickey. And Big Mickey is just this giant crane. And there's a scene where he sacrifices himself, and the explosions caught on with him. The munitions caught on with him. And Big Mickey sacrifices himself, and he falls down, and he explodes, and he falls down in the water, and explodes. And with a firing beam explosion. And I'm God, talk about dark, and edgy, because it implies that he died, and it implies that Big Mickey kind of had a sacrifice death, and it implies that Big Mickey had a sacrifice death. And we never see him after, and we don't see him after that. Well, he appeared in Warrior, but that's debatable because it depends on depending on the production or how these episodes were shot. And he appeared Big. No, it depends on the production order. And what's funny is, let me get to that. In the TV version, because this is the home media, that's canon, but this is the home media video release I'm referring to. In the TV version, they narrate that he lived and survived. I'm not kidding, in the 15-minute cut of Munitions, the TV version we call it, the narrator kind of implied that, that Big Mickey survived. I'm okay then. But, when you watch the original 20-minute cut, it clearly shows that he died. When you watch the original 20-minute cut, which is, canon, let's be honest, the home media release of Munitions is, canon, really. It clearly shows that he died, and he didn't show up afterwards. And some may say, he appeared in the episode Warrior. Yes, but that depends on, kind of the chronology of the episodes. I mean, you're gonna say, didn't Big Mickey appear in the episode, didn't he appear in, the episode Warrior after that? Yes. Well, that's the airing release, depending on the chronological order of the episodes. I'm talking about the production order, because this is the airing order. This is kind of, that appeared during, how the episodes aired. The official release is it kind of depends how the episodes aired. So it really depends of kind of the production order. So there's a big debate whether the production order of the episodes really comes in order. I hear a whole discussion about that. I'll go on. But clearly, let's be honest, Big Mickey died. I mean, except you want to count, he appeared in, the CGI. Big Mickey did later appear in the CGI seasons of Tom's Tank Engine, if you want to count that. But that's just fan service. And, yeah, I mean, that's not bad. That's interesting. Well, okay, I'll get to that. And there's another dark moment where there's a bridge is about to collapse, but Top Hat saves the day by, pushing up the bridge and where people almost fall and die, but he saved the day from preventing stuff like that. There's that episode, called Ghosts. There's, there's just so much crazy shit. There's Ghosts, there's Pirates Edgy, the episode Pirates Edgy, and there's Darkness. I like that. I mean, in the episode Ghosts, well, if you want to count, and let me get back to Big Mickey. If you want to count, like, Tom's Tank Engine, where Big Mickey did later appear in Tom's Tank Engine. Well, Big Mickey did later appear in the CGI seasons of Tom's Tank Engine, but that's just fan service, let's be honest. And that's not a bad idea if having Big Mickey appear in Tom. I mean, I can see, like, Thomas and Tugs appearing in the same universe. And that's not a bad idea of, like, Big Mickey appearing in Tom's Tank Engine. I mean, I can see, like, Thomas and Tugs appearing in the same universe, really. I can see that, really. You know, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. I can see Big Mickey Finn. I can see Tugs and Big Finn. I can see Tugs blend well. I can see Tugs and Big Mickey kind of blend well. But, another interesting thing is, yeah, like, there's an episode called Pirate, where there's like, there's an episode called Pirate, that's a dark episode where there's, like, kidnapping and hostage and dark... And there's, like, kind of, like, good atmosphere of, like, the dark pirates. Good atmosphere of that. There's an episode called Ghosts, where there's, like, literal, assuming ghosts and spooky atmosphere. So, now, I love this series. And when we watch the episode Ghosts, it's, like, really fun. There's, like, so much atmosphere. Okay, it's shot very well. David Min's such a great director. And there's, like, supposedly ghosts in this episode. So the episode Ghosts, check it out. I love that episode. Really fun stuff. David Min, just the way it was shot, I loved it. The cinematography was amazing in that episode. Oh, David Min is so amazing. But, that's kind of all I gotta say about that. I mean, really interesting stuff about this series. So much stuff I love about this series. Now I want to talk about the Zero Fleet, Captain of the Fleet. He's the captain. Captain Star is the captain of the fleet. Captain Zero is captain of his fleet. Hercules leader. Zorn's the leader of the Sartans, these stacks, so you get the point. What I really like, now here are my favorite episodes. Now, the episodes I like in this series, Tugs, is, I do like the episode Sunshine, I like the episode Pirate. Good episode. Pirate's a good episode. I like the episode Trap's alright. I like the episode High Winds. High Winds is an enjoyable episode. I like the episode High Tide. Yeah, I don't mind the episode High Tide. I like the episode Quarantine. Quarantine's a fun episode. I really like that episode. The episode War is alright. My favorite episode is Munitions. Oh, I love the episode Munitions. Really good episode. Really great episode. I like the River Up. Oh, I really like the episode River Up. My favorite episode, River Up. River Up is such an entertaining episode. Really love that episode. Really fun stuff. I like the episode Ghosts. I like the episode Jinx is fun. I like the episode Jinx. That's a fun one. That's a really good one. I really like I love that episode Ghosts. I really like the episode Ghosts. I love that episode Ghosts. Really entertaining, fun episode. Really fun episode. Really entertaining, fun episode. And that's kind of like my favorite episodes of Tugs. I like most of the episodes of this series. And technically, I mean, just, there's like so much. There's like a lot of explosions, action. In the last episode series, it ends in like big freaks, but technically already the last episode is really River Up. Yes, sorry, no. I mean, I like the episode Upriver. I love the episode Upriver. Upriver was a good one. Upriver, really fun, entertaining episode. High Tide. I like the episode High Tide. Upriver, I really like the episode Upriver. High Tide, really like the episode High Tide. I wins. Okay. Upriver, really fun, entertaining episode. Really love that episode. Upriver, really fun, entertaining episode. I really love that episode. Now, the series ends in the episode Big Freeze. Not a big fan of that episode. But some might say Upriver is the real last episode, because technically, I mean, Big Freeze was the last episode that aired, but technically I found out that Upriver was the last episode that was shot in production, so technically that's the last episode. Because the last episode is officially Big Freeze, but and Upriver was the episode before that, but technically Upriver might be the real last episode, because why? Because Big Freeze was like the last episode that aired, and Upriver was the episode that like aired before that. But technically, when we go by the production order, Big Freeze was shot before that. Big Freeze was shot before that earlier on. The episode Upriver was the last episode that was shot. The episode Upriver was like the last episode that was shot, so technically Upriver is like the last episode in like production, or like was the last episode in production. So technically, the episode Upriver is like the real last episode, because it was like the last episode that came out in production, that was made in production, that was shot in production, that came in production. So technically, that's like the last real episode. So Upriver's last true real episode. Really fascinating stuff right there. And the series ends in that episode, which was a big banger. But the series actually was canceled after that. I'm like, are you kidding me? In the series, I mean, look, this series, like, I mean, it had such a banger episode. I mean, the series ended because it was bankrupt, because Blue Water Studios, I forgot to mention, it was produced by Blue Water Studios. I love this series. This is the most underrated series ever, better than Theater. Now, I forgot to mention, this series was produced by Blue Water Studios. And Blue Water Studios produced the series Tug, the same people that made Tom's Tank Engine. I mean, for Upriver more. Now, Now, I never liked the episode Big Freeze, and that's why I prefer the episode Upriver. And technically, Big Freeze is not the real Upriver was the last real shot. And technically, Big Freeze was not the real last episode. The real last episode that was shot was Upriver, so, you know, technically speaking. And the series just had a banger, but the series was unfortunately canceled because Blue Water Studios was bankrupt. And Blue Water Studios was the same company that produced Tom's Tank Engine, and it was the same company that produced Tugs. And, you know, they made this series. And unfortunately, the company was bankrupt, and that's basically why the series was canceled, unfortunately. But, I mean, it was doing so well, but later on it had a cult following thing, as we know. But this series is just so good. It's one of my favorite series, underrated. Look, Tugs is just one of my favorite TV series, or one of my favorite TV series of the 80s, at least. And Tugs is such an underrated series, Mike. And Tugs is such an underrated series of the 80s, Mike. Really great series. I love this series. I give Tugs an 8 out of 10. It's just so good. I love it. Really underrated and fun. This series is a blast. So much fun. Oh my goodness. Okay. And it's just, Tugs is such a banger. I love it. And that's kind of all I gotta say. I mean, I think this is a highly underrated series. It's really good. And, like, look, I mean, this series is so good. Like, no wonder it has a cult following. I mean, thankfully it did have a cult following later on, but it's just so good, and it's just really underrated. And it's just, Tugs is just so good. It is just so criminally underrated. It's just so criminally underrated. It's just so underrated and good. I just love this series. So much better and fun. And by the way, Tugs is just, well, better than Theater Tugboat. I digress. You know, fuck boat. And by the way, Tugs is better than Theater Tugboat, but I digress. Yeah, but you know, Tugs is better than Theater Tugboat, but I digress. Well, you know, fuck Theater Tugboat, but I digress. But overall, that's kind of all I gotta say, guys. And I give Theater Tugboat an 8 out of 10. And yes, this series, Tugs, deserves an 8 out of 10. Tugs. Yeah, oh, definitely. But, yeah, that's kind of all I gotta say. So, guys, I'm Retro Critic, and I'll see you guys later, and I'll see you guys next time, and I'll see you guys around. Peace out, and bye.